Make no mistake about it, my resolve is steady and strong about winning this war that has been declared on America.
A goal of victory, not compromise. And later, wars change countries. World War II made the United States a world power committed to an international role isolationism left behind. Vietnam left the United States more cynical. Americans had learned their government could lie to them. This time, unity so far, agreement on a goal so far. Will that change if the struggle is long? We can't know. The fight is just beginning. Bruce Morton, CNN, Washington.
And the fight is just beginning. Our coverage of the aftermath of these terrible tragedies is continuing. We're going to be back in a minute with more coverage. Joining us, CNN's Joey Chen and Bill Hemmer. And I'll be back as well. Aaron.
We are yet again in the middle of another extraordinary day. The things we have seen thus far today, Joey, again eclipsing what we have seen yesterday. And it continues to be a story that we are on top of here in the interest of our employees and colleagues. Another shift change. I'm Bill Hemmer in Atlanta.
And I'm Joey Chen. And we do have to note that not only the very hard work of our friends and colleagues in New York and Washington, but the great interest all across the nation as people tune in to CNN to find out the very latest. We will hear from Judy Woodruff in just a few moments. First, let's get a quick look at where we are at this hour. There is late word from New York. We are now being told, very disturbing to us. We can't quite put our finger on why this has happened yet, but we are being told that the reported rescue of 5 emergency workers, which had been reported earlier in the day here on CNN, did not happen. It did not take place. Officials say they don't yet know how the story began to circulate, but CNN is still looking into this, and we're trying to find out more about this. Back at Ground Zero, the effort to save lives is indeed threatening lives itself. At least one major skyscraper is feared to be wavering now, and some strong storms, possibly with heavy winds, are on the way into the Northeast. More than 4,700 people are reported as missing and believed to be in the rubble. In Washington now, the government puts the number of dead at the Pentagon at about 190. Now, that includes the victims from American Airlines Flight 77, which is, of course, the flight that crashed into the fortress on Tuesday. We get this very late word. A rescue worker tells CNN of pings being heard from the rubble, pings that could lead to the airplane's voice and data recorders, those so-called black boxes.
Said to be so critical in any investigation of any airline that goes down. We are being told right now that United Airlines Flight 93 that went down in Somerset County, western Pennsylvania, apparently officials there indicating that the black boxes there have been picked up. Kelly Arena, live in Washington. Kelly, what do we know?
Well, Bill, justice officials say that, yes, they have confirmed that they did find that black box. All along, officials have been indicating that that would probably be the first black box to be uncovered. And I'm sorry, flight data recorder. They're so-called black boxes, but the correct term is a flight data recorder. That would be found because that was the cleanest crime scene to deal with. It was the only plane that didn't crash into a building. It is a crime scene that investigators have easier access to. Now, that was the flight, if you remember, that was traveling from Newark to San Francisco. It carried a passenger load of 38 and a crew of 8. It is also the flight that we have heard various stories from. Yesterday, CNN did receive a partial copy of a transcript, air traffic control transcript from that flight, where we know that one of the hijackers told passengers that he had a bomb on board. We also know that one of the passengers on that flight called home and said that the male passengers on that plane had voted together to decide to try to overtake the terrorists. So we do have some real life drama that we know about that occurred not only in the cockpit but among the passengers on that flight. Again, the black box has been found. This could be very helpful to investigators. They were hoping that they could find these flight data recorders intact. It would help with the investigation. You never know what you will hear that may lead them to investigators to finding more information about anything that could help them pull the threads of this investigation together in terms of identifying more about these terrorists, possible terrorist cells operating within the United States. But a very good piece of news for investigators, Bill.
Kelly, let me stop you here because we're talking about the flight data recorder.
That's
what about
right.
the cockpit voice recorder?
Well, the cockpit voice recorder, which is what air traffic control had, we do have a partial transcript of that we released yesterday. The microphone, though, was keyed on and off, so it's not a continuous transcription. It was something where it sounded like there was a scuffle between the pilot and the terrorist at the time, trying to turn it on and off. So this may yield more information if it is indeed intact.
All right, Kelly Arena, come back and check back in as soon as we get more information. But again, United Airlines Flight 93, again, the flight data recorder has been recovered, which would be so critical to finding out altitude and other situations possibly on board that plane before it hit the ground there in western Pennsylvania. More now with Joey. Joey.
Bill, meantime, in all of this, the Attorney General John Ashcroft is saying that the FBI is working on literally thousands and thousands of leads in these cases. Here's some of what we've been able to learn so far. Authorities say that they believe 50 people may have been involved in the attack. They also say that Arab individuals had recently inquired about aircraft availability at Eastern Air Charter in Norwood, Massachusetts. Law enforcement officers say that these individuals may have been the hijackers or at least part of the planning team. Federal sources, meantime, have identified two men, Mohammed Atta and Marwan al-Shahid, as the suspected pilots of one or two of the planes after they were hijacked. Both men had trained on a flight simulator in South Florida. Meantime, police in Hamburg, Germany, brought in a woman for questioning in connection with the attacks. German authorities have also detained a male airport worker. Germany's top prosecutor says that 3 of the suspected hijackers were of Arab descent and are believed to have lived in Hamburg. Meantime, the commercial jetliners are back in the air again all across the United States. For the first time in the nation's history, U.S. airspace has been closed to all non-military planes since after Tuesday's terror attacks. The only airports open right now, though, are those meeting the tough new security requirements. Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta gave the green light this morning, saying that airports have to be opened on a case-by-case basis. Many of today's flights were those diverted to Canada on Tuesday after the attacks in New York and Washington. Travelers arriving at airports are being met by scores of federal marshals, police, and canine units, which are all part of these new security measures.
Some of the other things we're picking up on right now, Joey, the New York Stock Exchange will not reopen tomorrow on Friday as had been planned earlier, but rather on Monday. That is now the target date. They'll do some testing over the weekend on Saturday, but trading right now set to resume the usual time, but it will be far from usual, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time Monday morning. Also, the National Football League has made a decision it will cancel Week 2 of the NFL season. All games are off for this weekend. Games set to resume on Sunday, the 23rd of September. Also, Congress has passed a resolution today urging the country to fly the Stars and Stripes for the next 30 days. If you spent much time outdoors, you can not help but notice a lot of folks doing that already, getting several calls here that various outlets across the country giving away flags at times, and several major retailers have run out of those flags at individual outlets. One report said 80,000 have been sold in New York City alone. Also, another note, a sign in the skies, combat aircraft patrolling above some major U.S. cities, including Washington. We saw this over the Pentagon and other buildings there today. In words and gestures today, U.S. officials are speaking unmistakably of war.
Now, back on a story that earlier in the days had raised many of our hopes and hearts. The news we had heard is that 5 firefighters who had been lost since Tuesday had been located in an SUV buried beneath the rubble of what remained of one of the World Trade Center towers. Now we are told that story was not true. CNN's Martin Savage rejoins us now from New York with the latest on the story. Marty, I don't understand. How could this story be so far off course?
Joey, this is a heartbreaking development here that we have just learned within the last half hour. This confirmation that no firefighters were found coming to us from the fire department itself, even though the fact that rescuers who claimed that they saw the rescue take place, even though that the New York City Police Department confirmed that in fact they had been found, even though Bellevue Hospital had said that yes, they were expecting them, It turns out the miracle that everyone was so joyous about did not occur. Authorities say the way the confusion came about on the site was the fact that there are so many rescue workers and so many firefighters working in the area trying to find survivors that several of them fell down a steep pile of debris and actually fell underground. They were rescued. When they were rescued, apparently by all the other rescuers that were out there, it was misinterpreted as this dramatic saving of 5 firefighters. It is an absolutely heart-aching development that it is not the case. Authorities simply say there was no miracle. And there's other disturbing news coming to light now. Authorities are telling us that there have been several arrests made of members of the media, the local media, apparently posing as firefighters or as federal officers in their attempt to try to get closer to the scene for the purpose of photography. They have been taken into custody. And now other concerns, buildings falling down, 2 specific buildings. One is the One Liberty Plaza building, in which there is grave concern about the stability of that structure. And then there is the World Finance Center, which is also thought to be in danger of possible collapse. Not that it's imminent, not that it's coming down right this second, only that there is structural problems. It has been weakened from the foundation. In both cases, they say it was the collapse of the World Trade Center towers that undermined the foundations of these buildings. They may look sound from the outside, they may even in some cases be new, but that does not mean that they are not a legitimate threat to those that are trying to work down below with this tremendous danger that is overhead. They are taking every precaution they can. They continue to monitor these buildings, but they know that the search for survivors is job number 1. It's precedent, and the people here believe it is worth risking their own lives to try to find them. And then there is the problem of weather. They have enjoyed good weather now for the past 2 days. It looks excellent now. We are told to expect a dramatic turn sometime after midnight. One of the things that they have anxiously been working on here is trying to get all the massive amounts of equipment and supplies under some sort of cover. Heavy rains are expected and perhaps even high winds. None of that is good news for the rescuers on a day that is ending with a very bitter note. Joey?
Marty, talk to me about this. You said that there have been some reports of people trying to sneak into areas that they clearly did not belong in, yet they have to really close off all of Lower Manhattan, in effect, to make sure that this scene is safe. I mean, that is a big area around the World Trade Center. How are they able to do that when so many of the security resources have to be devoted to the rescue effort directly?
Well, they have brought in officers and law enforcement personnel from all of the surrounding area, the surrounding region, to be exact. And you have state police officers, you have federal police officers, you have local police officers, county police officers, all coming in from different jurisdictions, different communities, all coming in, though, with the purpose of trying to secure this area. Keep in mind, it is not just a matter of trying to keep the public out. It is not just a matter of trying to keep the media in check. This behind us here, as devastating as it is, as huge as the destructive area that is covered, is a crime scene, first and foremost. And everything that is out there is considered a piece of evidence, perhaps a vital piece of evidence, no matter how small. So trying to preserve that for the purpose of the investigation and ultimately finding out who is to be blamed and who is to come to justice is vital. Hence the reason why the media is allowed to get close, taken up usually in groups, escorted by officers. But we are not given free rein in this area, and you could understand why.
Certainly can understand that. CNN's Martin Savage covering the latest developments from the scene of the search underway in Lower Manhattan. Note to our viewers, in just a few moments, we're going to hear from CNN correspondent Elizabeth Cohen. She's at one of the hospitals, which has become something of a center for the many, many thousands of people who are looking for lost loved ones, friends, family as well. We're going to hear from Elizabeth in a few moments. First, we want to continue with more on the investigation itself.
And the human story, that armor we saw so clearly about 30 minutes ago, back there in a moment. Orlin Sidney from our weather department just about 45 minutes ago came down to tell us that the weather does not appear to be as severe as some thought before. They're thinking rain after midnight Eastern time tonight, but then stopping by noon Eastern tomorrow, just about a 12-hour period. After that, Orlin thinks the skies will clear once again, and that should be indeed good news. You mentioned the investigation, though, Joey. The Attorney General, John Ashcroft, said they are pursuing right now thousands and thousands of leads, and many of those leads going up and down the east coast of the United States. And Mike Betcher trying to get a handle on things at this point. He joins us now. Mike, what are you finding out?
Well, it's been very busy today, Bill. As you said, Ashcroft reported that there are 18 terrorists, or were 18 terrorists, aboard those 4 hijacked planes. But 2 of those men are the object of an intensive international search that stretches the Atlantic from Florida to